What's going on, you guys? This is New York Adventure 1994 here, and it is Wednesday, March 22nd, 2023, and I want to talk about what happened 10 years ago today. So, on Friday, March 22nd, 2013, we drove down to Disney World for spring break of 2013 before Easter. We drove down to Disney in March of 2013 during spring break. We had this trip booked since August of 2012, like a month after our July of 2012 trip. And we decided to book a trip in March, and we decided to drive down there this time instead of flying. I mean, we did look at flight tickets, but they were too expensive for us, so we wound up driving. It was like 2 days after spring started in 2013. So yeah. I remember the night before we left, we had like a weak snow shower. Like, we had this weak snowstorm in our area where we had like 2-3 inches before we left. Like at night before we got up at like 3 in the morning. Yeah, I remember it was snowing before we left for Disney, but it wasn't anything too serious. We were still going. And we were packing that night, and we got up at like 3:30 in the morning, and we left at 4 a.m. to get a head start on our driving. Our long drive down the I-95 southbound to Disney. We woke up early to get a head start on our driving on I-95 for Disney. Yeah, we left Long Island about like 4:30, 5 a.m. and we got on the Verrazano Bridge about like after 5. And we got into Jersey about like after 5 also. And then we made a rest stop for an hour, and we got breakfast, and then we were back in the car at like 6:30 in the morning, and the sun was coming up. We actually, before we left, we actually rented a car from JFK Airport, and we rented out a 2013 Dodge Grand Caravan for our trip. And it actually had a DVD player in it that my parents were changing the DVD every time a movie was finished, and we brought the whole album of our Disney movies for our trip also. And by the time we got back in the car after that rest stop for an hour, we started watching movies like Enchanted and Up and all these other Toy Story, and then we watched Toy Story, and then Beauty and the Beast, like all these other Disney movies. Yeah, we like watched Enchanted, we saw Up, we saw Beauty and the Beast, like, and then Toy Story, and then we saw some Mickey Mouse shorts. We watched a lot of movies going there. We also got to, we actually got to eat in Cracker Barrel for the first time while we were in Virginia. While we were passing through Virginia, we had Cracker Barrel for the first time over there. And they were selling like Easter stuff in the gift shop because Easter was a week away at that time. And then we got into North Carolina, and then by like 6-ish, we entered South Carolina, and south of the border was still there before they took it down. We got to see south of the border during that trip as another rest stop. And it looks pretty nice and pretty festive, but it's too bad it's not there anymore, but it did look festive. And believe it or not, this was my first time in North Carolina. And then the second time was this previous trip I went on for the Rangers and Hurricanes game back in February. That was my second time in North Carolina. The March 2013 trip was my first time going to North Carolina. Like during the road trip. And then we made a rest stop in Georgia. And then by the time we got into Georgia, about like 10 o'clock at night, we checked into a room for the night after hours of driving, like down I-95, because of how tiring it really is driving down there for such a long time. We stayed at a Holiday Inn in Savannah, Georgia, in like the suburbs area, near the interstate, and me, my brothers, and my nana were in one room, and my parents were in another room. Yeah, this was the first time we brought my grandmother along on a Disney trip. She was the one watching us in our room while my parents were in another room to keep us company, because I was only in 6th grade when this trip took place, and this was 5 months after Sandy hit us. Yeah, well, New York was like recovering from Hurricane Sandy when we went to Disney in March of that year, when we drove that one time. There was a lot to do to recover from Hurricane Sandy. Like, this was only 5 months after Sandy hit us, and I was in middle school in 6th grade. Yeah, I gotta tell you, I did not have a good night's sleep in that hotel. At like 5:30 in the morning, I got woken up by a nearby train. There was like these train tracks behind the bushes near a railroad crossing, and there was like an early morning train passing by at 5:30 in the morning near the hotel I was staying in. And I heard the horn like wake me up. And the train horn itself like gave me the creeps. The horn sounded pretty weird. I got woken up at like 5:30 in the morning by that thing. It was not good luck at all. That we wound up checking out at like 6 o'clock. And we had breakfast, and then we left at 7 in the morning, finishing Georgia. And then by 9:30 we arrived in Florida. And we didn't arrive in Disney until like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And our first day we went to Magic Kingdom. And we saw the fireworks. We arrived on Saturday, March 23rd, 2013. And that was Shay's birthday. It was on a Saturday that year. But I didn't know who he was yet. But I always remember his birthday. So I'm gonna start a new part now. I probably wasted so much time talking about the drive down there, but I'm gonna start a new part.